everybody, and welcome. My name is Stella Boam, and I am the author of the upcoming book, Read Like a Queen, Real Life Insights to Slay Your Tarot Practice. And I have with me my good friend. We met on Instagram because we found out that we were doing tarot in similar places about 10 years apart. But he also is a contributor to my book, and I'm excited to have a conversation with him. We have got with us James Jacob Pierri, the Auset Gypsy. James, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the people.
Well, thank you, Stella. Good morning. And thank you for having me here. I'm James Jacob Pierri, the author of the Auset Gypsy Tarot deck and contributor and uh, co-creator of Tarot Training Sleeves. So we'll talk about that later. Uh, I was so happy that you asked me to contribute a little something to your wonderful book coming up, and I look forward to talking about that. I'm a tarot card reader. I've been doing this a couple of days, and people keep asking, how long you've been doing this, and I'm like, well, if I tell you that, it's going to give away my age, and then quickly change the subject. But I've been doing this for longer than social media's existed, so that should give a little bit of a clue. And I'm still pursuing my tarot reading, my study, my practice, my experience with it. It's just a never ending journey, kind of like the fool to the world. It all starts back over again just when you think you've come to the end.
Well, upward. It doesn't just like go full circle. Like you're like, okay, now we're on the next level, and the next level. It just tends to
Ah,
spiral upwards. Have you noticed
does.
that?
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
never really ends.
Yeah, and I love it because James, James, you and I are actually in the similar age group where we're just like, well, and I totally own my age. I just tell people I've been 25 for 19 years.
Exactly.
So yeah, did I want to point this out though. Did you happen to see that little hair flip he gave? Like, thank you, you know. I said this to Logan one of the interviews, and I said Logan has the audacity to have better hair than me. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing I want to say to you. You have the audacity to have such naturally curly hair. Yeah, how dare you?
Ah, it is a blessing and a curse, and everyone in my family can attest to it. It just
Mhm.
depends on what Mother Nature wants to do at this moment.
It's probably been very curly the last couple of days because we've been humid. It's like bathroom after a shower humid down here in Florida.
And readjusting back to coming down here for the short time I've come back, no, it's true. I mean, the hair can be beautiful or truly outrageous. It just, it all depends on what mood Mother Nature's in.
See, now you understand why I buy mine. Not only does it get to be the color I want it to be, but I can style it however I want, and I don't have to worry about
You
the
know what?
rest.
That's not a bad idea. Amazon, here I come.
I'll take you to some of my girls. I'll take you to some of my places. We'll go hair shopping together.
I'm down. I'm ready. Let's go.
So, James, what brought you to the world of tarot? How did you start this journey?
For me, culturally, part of my background, where I come from in this mythological mile square little city called Hoboken, New Jersey, uh, it was just the last bastion and the last leftover old world charm of all the immigrants who'd moved there, a couple of weeks before I was born. And it's just, that was it. It was just in the tapestry where I come from. People are devout believers in all sorts of different categories of the spiritual. And, my father's side of the family is all Italian from Naples and Mount St. Giacomo. We still have family there. We can easily trace our
Mhm.
steps back there because they weren't too long ago. And then my mother's side of the family is Armani Vlach. We're such a tiny little group of people. Most people don't even know we exist, but we do. We're here. And luckily enough, both sides of my family had a fascination for the otherworldly and spiritual, or what we would say these days, the metaphysical. And that was it. But growing up, we didn't use tarot cards, not like the ones that are in circulation today. We use good old fashioned Italian playing cards.
Nice, nice. So So you didn't just start with you didn't actually start with tarot. You actually started with a little bit more cartomancy, then went into tarot, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yes and no, because in the Italian way of doing it, the Italian playing cards do look like old-fashioned tarot cards, and the the influence is vice versa over time. Of course, my Aquarius personality had to dig into the history of everything since I was a kid. I loved and had a passion for all this. My aunt was an astrologer that taught me and my cousin astrology. My grandmother loved dream interpreting so that she could hit the numbers on the street. And let me tell you, she made a lot of money that way. And we just had it was just all there. There was a very blurred line between the modern and the good old world charm, the old fashioned.
Hmm.
The upbringing was very old world Catholic, quasi, you had to know your roots. Today they would call it paganism. We didn't call it
Hmm.
paganism. It was just traditional. It was just you have to know your roots. And
Yeah.
people believed. So the cards, they did have images on them, but they weren't as defined as post Rider Waite Smith cards had become.
Gotcha. And I've shared this with you before. So prior to this glittery ball of whatever you want to call it hit the scene, I was an opera singer and I did sing in Italy for a while. And what I think a lot of people classically connect the country of Italy with is Catholicism because the Vatican and the Pope and all of that. But I happened to be there at a time when they did the Night of a Thousand Witches,
Ah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is a celebration of
Yeah.
it is a celebration of the pagan roots. I'm going to use the term that's
Yeah.
classically colloquially used now. It was this great little, I mean, and it was a very Catholic little city that I was living in at the time, and everywhere were banners that talked about the different zodiac signs and
Mhm.
the night we wore all black and this big scene that talked about how the witches drove the people who wished them harm out of their town. And it is such a fascinating place because it is so steeped in those non-Christian roots, but it lives and breathes, and it lives so beautifully with each other that you can still have the Catholic, church bells and the organ and the mass, and still have those pre-Christian, non-Judeo-Christian beliefs living with each other.
But it's such an ancient place, and we got to remember Italy's
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
and broke. Before it formed as Italy in the 1800s, was broken up into all sorts of little, kingdoms, town states, city states. But sticking with what you're talking about, it's true, and it's been really unbelievable to a lot of people when I would explain my upbringing. Being born in Hoboken, New Jersey, there was not just Italians, there was a lot of different people. So I had the fortunate experience of seeing the world right on my block. It was fantastic. But sticking with the Italian part, a lot of people do forget. I think the new age commercialism of the 80s and into the late 90s really cornered everything metaphysical, tarot, or witchcraft was Celtic because that was popular at the time. The music, the all those Highlander movies.
Oh,
Not,
oh, I remember
hey, there
those.
there can be only one, but it really sold it off as that. And we, Italian Americans, especially with so many roots still back to that part of the world, we're kind of like, really? They always skip us. They always like we don't exist. But all right, whatever. And growing up by us, yeah, the religion is very fascinating and interesting because there are people who are very diehard Catholic. Italians are very passionate people. They find their passion, they stick to it. But we also are one of the seven legit cult centers to the Black Madonna, and we have the Black Madonna in a. I know this is going to sound dramatic, and I'm not making this up. In a secret, hidden little chapel in Hoboken, and if you're from Mont Saint Giacomo, of where my grandfather's from, we're allowed entry there. we know the right people, and we know to go. And actually, a year or two ago, I brought Alessandro Belloni, one of the world's leading Black Madonna experts. She herself is
Mm,
from Rome. She does all these devotional tours of the Black Madonna. She does the tarantella dances. She brought back the tamborello and the tamarata, the rhythms
mm.
into the modern times. She's been doing this for over 40 years. She even lives in New Jersey, and she and I have been friends for a long time. But I told her, "Did you ever see the Our Lady of Tendari in Hoboken?" She's like, "You got to be kidding." She's like, because she lives in a city one or two over from Hoboken, and she's like, "There's been a Black Madonna in my backyard for 40 years that I didn't know about." I'm like, "Yeah, because we keep her secret, not for something we know that you don't know, but because we don't want the dangers of crowds or damage or violence. We know she's there. She's The doors to this chapel are open one day a year during St. Anne's feast. The people can see her. There's bells rung, but I had the privilege of bringing her there, and we did a whole entire ritual drumming, the tamborellos, the big tambourines there, and really brought the chapel to life. And it was a wonderful experience. It's just all part of my childhood and background, and that all ties in, of course, with, like what you said, the zodiac and the metaphysics of it all. And I've not known my life without any of these things. So it was never a teenage rebellion religion. I didn't get into the craft. I did certainly go through my Gothic era, of course. Long live Susie and the Banshees. But the tarot and all of that was compartmentalized from that part of my life because it was culturally there.
And I think too, there's one thing that the Italians do know how to do. It's how they know how to party. I love it. They know how to party and they know how to eat. So yeah, thank you.
Manja.
Right. Tutte a tavola a mangiare. Everybody at the table, let's eat. You kind of hinted at this, but do you want to give us just a little sense of how long you've been a reader? I've been a reader for 30 years. I finally hit 30 years with this last birthday. So I can now say I've been a tarot reader for 30
Yeah.
years. So do you want to
And
give us a little hint, or is it you
no,
can even say it's upwards of 15 years.
I tease and play. Like you, I own my age and all of this as well too. I just like to tease and play. But congratulations, 30 years in any career, in any art and practice is a devoted life. Let me tell you, I I've been so used to saying 25 years that I forgot. Well, because I forgot how old I was, and then I realized, oh boy, this has been about 30 years for me as well too now, maybe 31, 32, like professionally. The
Mhm.
first time I actually got paid for reading cards, well, it wasn't even really reading cards at that point. I did palms. We got stuck on Christopher Street and Hudson in the village. And at that time, they started reinstating police officers at the train stations. And we got into New York, but we couldn't get out because the cop was there.
No.
And we were used to jumping the turnstile. It was me and two friends. And my friends pimped me out right there on the corner of Christopher and Hudson and just said, "He'll read your palm for $5." We made enough money to get a pizza, three drinks, and money back over the in the path station under the Hudson River back to Hoboken. And then that was the first time I got, I guess, legitimately paid for this. And then after that, I just hit the streets doing it. And it was way different before social media. People are lucky; they get to have climate control and beautiful background, and they can be dressed up real nice. I had to do it the old school way, which was literally just hit the streets and sit in the streets and do it, sit on someone's stoop and bounce around until you found an actual location to do it at, get chased by the cops. It was a lot of fun.
And what a time that was too, because I think a lot of tarot readers now especially are it seems like there's two camps. We have the people who are our age who either really thoroughly embrace the social media aspect of it or they completely for a while it seems like there wasn't there was a rejection of social media, like it
Mm.
cheapens the delivery, you can't deliver this, that, and the other. But then I think 2020 taught us that it was very vital for our survival, especially as readers, and as this, if this is the sole, breadwinner, it seems like now a lot more people are levitating towards that, and especially a lot of tarot readers just do online, and
I
which it's amazing how smart the it's amazing how smart people are being with it.
I think it's got its good and bad, just to balance it out, because I think I don't explore it enough. I know this is terrible, but I'm a frank person. I'm always going to be honest. If you looked at my Instagram account, it's more mermaids and pugs. I follow you. I follow a few other friends. I guess I give that part of my life a break when I'm scrolling social media.
Mm.
And I got a little overwhelmed a couple of years ago because with the advent of 2020, so many people came out on the scene. And I was impressed with some. And I'll be honest, to keep this in check, because it makes a good point of conversation. And then I saw a lot of people just uh, hamming it up and using it as a vehicle just to make money for themselves, or doing a great job looking like Stevie Nicks and given the whole aesthetic, as my 15-year-old
Hmm.
niece Athena would say. And but then there was no substance, and I was like, this brings up a good point too. What happens between the people that are just all image, apart from people who know how to deliver an image but also know how to deliver the quality reading because they have experience and they're spiritually connected, and then the people who are mooching off of that. And it was definitely a great experiment in seeing how so much oversaturation could be a rough thing. And then at the same time, it was amazing to see how many people are out there doing this. Because don't you remember back before social media, sometimes you thought you were the only person in the world doing this?
What's funny is I actually referenced that in my book, where when it was, for me, when it was still an underground practice, because I also grew up in a very religious household. I would go to the bookstore, I would read as much as I could, put the book back, and then go someplace else, because I didn't ever want to get caught reading a tarot book.
Right, right, right.
So I had a path. I had this path, and I can still see it very brilliantly in my brain. I had my, like, the metaphysical path. So I started with the LGBTQ section,
Section at
which,
Barnes and Noble. Yep.
exactly,
I'm
exactly. So
familiar.
I would start there, because that was like, if that's the place I really want to see, like that's the place I really want to make sure I don't get caught. And then I would move to the spiritual side, to the metaphysicals, read as much as I could about tarot, and then, since I was still, studying music, go to the music
Oh,
section at the
exactly.
end of the trip, because in that way, if my parents caught me or if they saw me, I would be looking over classical music. I'd be looking over Broadway shows or opera or anything like that. So,
See, that's a
yeah,
lot of stuff that we have in common, and I'm so surprised we never ran into each other in Barnes and Nobles across this country during those days. Because same thing, like you, I studied classical music too. I studied voice, and I traveled playing upright bass in an orchestra, and sang in pop groups, and did all of that. But that was my migration as well too,
mhm.
the LGBT section to the metaphysical. I remember being blown away by seeing how many people wrote books on tarot. Like growing up, there were no there were pamphlets. Like my grandmother had these leftover books from, like, I don't know, the 30s and 40s, but they were like very thin, like very cool looking pamphlet books on like dreams and cards and astrology. And when I saw Barnes and Noble with all those books, I just thought, wow, I didn't know so many people wrote about all this. And like, the same thing with the witchy stuff, like the New Age community and the witchcraft community and the metaphysical community, like really had their icons and their stars that I came very late
Mhm.
to that scene. The people I saw growing up did it very different than that. I always tell everybody the difference between how I saw all of this growing up was very Zodiac Bar from Bell Book and Candle. I'm like, that's my favorite. I did an interview once, and they asked the three of us what are our favorite witchy movies, and of course, one person threw out The Craft, and then one person threw out probably Practical Magic, And I was like, "Oh, hands down, Bell Book and Candle." And the interviewer actually had to say, "What is that?" And I'm like, Kim Novak's rolling in her grave right now. What's the matter with you? How do you not know Bell Book and Candle? But that's what I was more used to, like that style.
Yeah. Let's go back to you as a reader. If I were to come to you as a client, what makes you unique?
Uh, I serve great tea. No, besides that, both literally and metaphorically. But the I I still like to include all the old world ritual aspect to tarot reading. I resisted and never went through the late 80s, 1990s new age filter. I always got a kick out of seeing that. It was very bizarre to me. So to sum this up in a funny way, death never meant change to me because where I came from, when men and women read the cards, it wasn't just always women all the time. And they saw that ace of spades, they told you had like, straight up, hey, here, someone's going to drop dead. So you got to be prepared. Now, I deliver it with a little more diplomacy because I like words and I'm articulate. So I know how to gauge my client as to what they're prepared to hear and what they're not. Not that I want to hold back, but I also don't want to shock and upset a person, but I do want to be direct. That's one thing I've always prided myself on, and I think that that's what's kept my large clientele all over the world coming back. I wish I can give a more mystical, magical Harry Potter answer, but I think the unique thing is that I'm always direct, I'm always honest with what I see, and don't deliver always love, luck, and unicorns and rainbows. I really tell what I see in there, and so that people can come up with solutions or be prepared for hard moments as well.
I think you make a very good point in that you can deliver uncomfortable information, not as a way to shock your clients, but as a way to say, this is coming, I'm telling you so you can prepare for it. I think
Right.
I think lately there's been this trend of uh, I'm a tarot reader. I tell it straight up exactly as it is. And I'm the same way, but I'm going to deliver it to you in a way that you feel prepared and empowered to do something about it because life, as we have seen in the last 20, as we've seen in the last 5 years, things happen. And the
Mm,
best thing we can do, and there's stuff that's well out of our control, but we can prepare for it and we can choose to do something about it, or we can choose to just fall into the trap. So I like that I really want to highlight that you have said that, yeah, I'm going to give you the truth, I'm going to give you the honesty, but I'm also telling you this not to shut you down, not to shock you,
mm,
but to actually actually give you heads up. It's like a roadmap. If this is where you want to go, keep going. If this isn't where you want to go, turn around, go someplace else. I have this cute little tongue-in-cheek thing that I say to people when I go do a reading for them. I say, "This is not written in stone. If this is a roadmap, this is a GPS. If you don't like where you're going, turn left, turn right, turn off and go to Bucky's, but change the direction because that's exactly what this is meant to do."
we see. I think that's the core of our friendship and respect for each other as peers in the tarot community is that our hearts are in the right place when we do this, and because we love it. And I do think that we have a compassion for the person sitting on the other side of the table, and that's important. You have to have that. You got to put yourself in their shoes. How would you prepare yourself for hearing some of the good, the bad, and the indifferent?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
but it's important to give the good, the bad, and the indifferent. I've been reading tarot cards at Islands of Adventure in
Hmm.
Lost Continent for 26 years now since it opened. I was one of the first readers, and I remember there in the beginning they asked us to take out the death card, the devil, and the hanged man. They wanted no bad images shown. A majority of the readers obliged because it was such an honor to be able to work in such a prestigious entertainment destination. I could never do it. and I never did it. And to this day, they're still in there. And I've never gotten in trouble for it, knock on wood, but I just couldn't remove the components because I'm like, that's like removing the scene from Star Wars where they blow up Alderaan, kill Luke's uncle and aunt, and slaughter the Jawas. Like without those three components, the movie would be missing an important part of what makes those heroes go on it
Yeah, it's missing the plot
perpetuates
point.
their fire,
It's like,
right?
what? This is the motivation here.
Right, right. And, uh, you know, but again, it's delivery. It's important.
Yeah.
Assess your client, see how sensitive they are and go smoothly, go gently.
Mhm. Absolutely. Let's pivot to your contribution to the book. What card did you choose to write on?
Ah, the Hermit.
Yes.
It couldn't have been any better timing.
So, just like with Logan, Logan wrote on the world, you wrote on the Hermit. I am the first to say that I actually kind of breathed a sigh of relief that you chose that card because the Hermit to me I don't want to say it's ethereal, but it took a lot for me to finally get to a point where I understood about the hermit and the message that the hermit had to the world. It seems, and I think it's because it's a lesson that I'm constantly learning in my life. When I'm like, I want things to go, but they're not meant to go just yet. It's meant to just stay, pause, reflect, prepare. And I'm curious well, it's kind of a two-part question. First off, what inspired you to contribute to the book itself? What inspired you to say, absolutely, I'm in on this writing project?
Because I was so excited that you came up with a fresh and a new idea. And that excited me. And any way to support you in the efforts in contributing to the tapestry of tarot from my sentimental point of view
Mm,
was important. So I thank you for even including me into that. And to contribute this part with the Hermit, you're right. There's life lessons. The tarot is a funny thing, especially when you approach it much younger in life. There's characters in there that you just don't know until you experience them. But when you get acquainted with the characters, especially the major arcana, the they kind of give you a heads up. They're mile markers. So if you're in your teen years or early 20s when you get introduced to these characters, the fool and the magician, of course, are going to be the ones that you can relate to and uh, experience the most because you're at that point. You're looking for fun. This is all experimental. You want to see if it works. You want to they're just the most natural. When you look at things like the Emperor, the Hermit, or like the later on cards, like sometimes like you can read about them, you can see what everyone's interpretation about them are, and get a gist and go okay, and then make your own assumptions and your own connections as to who you draw from experience in your life that these characters relate to. But I think the Hermit at like 21, you can fool yourself into saying, oh, this is someone introspective, because that's what you would understand at that time. It's not until you get older and you hit a certain age that you start realizing, I naturally understand what this means now. So the tarot is always teaching you something. You can assess, you can think you know what it is, but until you experience that evolution of life, and that's what the major arcana is in a sense, right? It's these pinnacle points in life, or eventualities as I call them, you're going to hit. And I finally hit the hermit stage or hitting it, so I'm understanding it better.
now, how has your relationship with the hermit changed since you've written this story and your information your connection to it? Like how has it changed?
It's so fantastic that when you asked me to do this contribution that it made me sit down and put pen to paper. I have to write. I'm terrible at typing. I will then type it afterwards. I'm one of these typers still.
Mhm.
So pen to paper is still magic. A candle and pen and paper for me is the way to go. The It made me consciously aware. It made me focus, not just look at it and subconsciously or abstractly. absorb and understand. And it made me outline and put into focus and make the clarity in more detail and articulation. That's when the bells went off for me that, oh, I'm at this stage now. I'm getting to it. I'm not fully immersed in it, but it made me recognize where I was in this stage of my life and be comfortable with it and own it and not go, oh no, I'm here. Look, ever since I was a little kid, I looked forward to old age because the two old guys at the Muppet Show were my heroes, and they gave me something to look forward to when I hit that age in life. So I'm not one of those people who are afraid of aging or maturing. It's all exciting still. There's always new things to learn about life. And the hermit did that for me because I was so used to always being the fool and then graduating to almost had been in a perpetual state of the magician until I realized I had outgrown the magician, but had to play the part longer than the duration of real time had allotted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. It seems to me like I think this is a big lesson with tarot because I totally agree. I went through something very similar where it seemed like I was in high priestess mode for a good long while. Partially because I didn't know how to get out of it, partially because I enjoy being mystical, and just being that mystere type of a person, which being a drag queen lends itself very easily. There is an aura of mystery and mystique
Yeah.
that I have the privilege of having being a drag queen. And it wasn't until I was finally writing this book, pitching it to the world, and had the good fortune that Red Feather Schiffer picked it up, that I finally thought, I'm not a high priestess anymore. I'm not the high priestess. I'm actually in full empress mode. I am
Mm.
turning all that into something tangible now. And as a result, I've got this book. Well, now that the book is pretty much a done deal. I'm moving into the next thing of the Emperor, where it's now like, okay, now it's on me to get this into the world. So I feel like what you're saying is true. Sometimes we get stuck in a card, because we either don't quite know what the next step is,
Right.
or we enjoy being there. Because the High Priestess mode is fun. It's fun being mysterious, and it's fun being the femme fatale, and it's fun being the one that everybody keeps murmuring about, which you don't always get with the Empress, because the Empress is a little bit more out there playing what you see is what you get. And I think that's what you're saying makes so much sense, is that sometimes we get into the hermit mode, but we stay there because it's comfortable, because we can't people anymore, or just because we're just not entirely certain the next step.
Well, stepping into the hermit part and realizing, if we look at all the cards, the Hierophant is a special card to me too, because that's my moment with my spiritual traditions, with Isism. I was legally ordained a priest of Isis, went through the initiations, devoted myself to that, the studies, the practice, the rituals, went out into the world, did the public rituals, did the private rituals, did initiations, and covered the ground that was asked of me to secure that. So that place still exists in my life. I had that era. The magician was the showman. It was what I have to provide over at Islands of Adventure. It's the costume. Like you with the High Priestess, it's the mystique. It's the fun entertainment part of what I get to do delivering what I do. And then for so many years I got stuck in having to sell that image. And I love it. I do. I loved it. But it was also wrapped up with the other high priestesses. It was wrapped up with the different metaphysical communities I was in as well. And then other people who are watching this and listening to this could relate. Sometimes those communities come to a screeching halt and a very fiery end. And I don't think there's any other way for those communities to end. They can't just peter out. They have to crash and burn and You have to remember what you learned from the beginning, middle, of end, just like the major arcana arc of the story in going through metaphysical communities. And I know that you and I have had these conversations in private and in public about metaphysical communities, drag community, gay community, even that uh, metaphysical, the witchy community, anything that ends in community, you're going to deal with people. And so you're going to have this beginning, middle, and end. You're going to have that tower moment eventually. And being personally done with metaphysical communities, I now realize I've moved into this hermit stage in that part of my life where my practice, my beliefs, I've returned to study again, but now solely for my own sake, not to teach it, not to run to a circle and display everything I've learned and share it with anyone. Now it's just completely for my own personal use and satisfaction. That's where I found the solace in the hermit. That, oh, now it's just for me again. It's just me like the hermit, locked up in a tower with my million books and one candle.
Yeah, I think that's a key distinction because I know oftentimes when the hermit gets pulled, the first emotion people tend to feel is loneliness. And when I describe it, I say it's alone but not lonely.
Right.
And I think you you highlighting that, yeah, there's a comfort in this. There's a comfort in this. Like for me, the hermit is like, we're in the middle of the rainy season here, so people are just like people, at the parks, like, oh, it's raining, I can't do the things in the parks. I'm like, I'm home. I am wrapped up in my blanket. I am watching TV. I am, sipping on my soup. That coziness is what the hermit, I think, is the energy that it likes to deliver, is that you can be alone, but it doesn't mean you have to be lonely. I actually want to take this moment to read just a little bit of the snippet that you wrote here. With I mean, look, first off, look at this. How gorgeous is this? There,
The
where's the camera? There's the
looks
camera. It's
fantastic.
it's an
Bravo.
I know, and
Bravo.
I even when I told them my favorite color is purple. I mean, look, my eyeshadow is even like matching it. So the very first thing that you wrote here, and I think the first two sentences really does encapsulate the message of the hermit. At its core, the hermit represents an inward journey, a quest for self discovery and enlightenment. Similarly, middle age often marks a period of reflection and introspection. And I think that simple statement right there does bring in the energy of the hermit as a you've come so far and the journey's not over, but it's okay to stop, smell some roses, kind of look at your life and say, wow, I've lived. I've lived quite a remarkable life.
The reflection is good. There's another, I don't think subconsciously realized with the hermit as well as the hierophant, from my point of view, when it was time to contribute to society, there was two things that consciously, unconsciously, and subconsciously wanted to alter and change. That was really from my heart and my experience, which when reading that, it's different when you write it and you look at it to make sure it's grammatically correct. Hearing
Mm-hmm.
someone else read something you write, then all of a sudden becomes a different experience. So,
Mm-hmm.
think about that with your book. You wrote it, you grammatically checked it, but now people are going to read it and they're going to have a different experience than you did creating it. Hearing you say that even puts into memory, I used to think this about the gay community. One of the things, I'm a Gen Xer, so we had a little different mentality during our, big hurrah day, making noise and getting heard. One of the things I never appreciated or liked from some of the older men in the community always was this bashing of age after 35. And I was like, what is this? Some sort of like Saturnian, you're going to eat your young because you don't want them to, like, what is this? Like, this is a little weird to me because growing up in a house of majority of women and, independent, divorced moms, 1980s women, they're like, we didn't focus on those things. We focused on life and all of its, moments to celebrate. And with the Hermit, I was hoping that what I would do is give people younger than us the mile marker up the road that I got luckily at home, but not from, I mean, even in society completely today, it's still like Logan's Run. Like everything is so youth mall driven that after 30, just go to carousel, just knock yourself off. And it's like, no, this is terrible. That's companies wanting to sell product to naivety. That's what that really is. But realistically in life, Olympia Dukakis said it best in Moonstruck. It's not over till it's over. And with the Hermit, I want to give the younger people coming into tarot two things to look forward to. One, those of us a few mile markers down the road are showing you you're not done. You're not done. You're going to come out of your fool stage. You're going to come out of your magician stage and you're going to go through all these other stages. But when you get to the Hermit stage, look forward to it. And also look forward to middle age. It's not the slump everyone thinks it is. And uh, instead of throwing out, you're going to be unwanted because you're not young and you're not going to be pretty and you're not going to get you get attention in different ways. The Hermit happens because you don't want that kind of attention anymore.
Yeah, it's not that anything externally changes, it's the internal response that
Yes.
you now get to say, do I want this? Do I not want this? And you have the wherewithal to say, maybe this isn't what I want. I thank you so much for sharing that, James. And I am going to brag on you just a little bit here. Of course, you've got the Auset Gypsy Tarot, which I just happen to have handy here. Yeah, I took the book out, so all the cards are going everywhere. So if you note, I want to point this out to everybody watching. You notice we have this purple thing going. We have this thing. We love the color purple. I mean, not just the book and the musical, but we love the actual color. And I want to point out that you have this beautiful book with it, which I mean, it's so vibrant. I love the color schemes in it. I love everything about it. And your deck, I'm actually going to show a couple of cards here. Your deck is actually it is not a Rider-Waite-Smith inspired deck, but it is a Marseille, if I may be so
Right.
bold. It is a Marseille style deck. So style of deck. But still, I don't think that diminishes the experience because I myself am not as good with Marseille, but you can still have such an incredible wonderful experience with this deck. And you also have the tarot training sleeves that you collaborated with. You got that there on your side because I don't have those just yet, sadly. I don't own them, but you also have the other product to help people learn, which are the tarot training sleeves. And I think I remember you showing off what this is. It is such a unique product because it's not a deck
It,
of cards. I'm going to let you say it.
no, it's the funny thing is when I did used to teach tarot, I always began with the advisory of the only book you need to learn tarot is the tarot itself. It is a book without a spine. It will teach you its secrets. You just have to practice. But I would always reassure everybody that all the books on the shelves in the libraries and in the bookstores, these are those authors' unique experiences that they're contributing or they're transmitting the traditional definitions and meanings onto the next generation, preserving the history of tarot. And what I always like to teach my students was the the art of trusting the intuition, not making up something, but knowing the difference between you're making something up and trusting your intuition. And there's a blurry line, and you have to become comfortable with it. So we created this tarot training sleeves. I am not tech savvy by any means. And Dan Williams, who was the tech savvy powerhouse behind all of this, is the magician who brought this thing to life. I contributed my tarot savvy and contributed to the design of the product itself, because my snark was to make it look like a book, if you can see it. So it looks like a book, but it is not a book. In fact, when you open it, it's a whole entire experience. Inside is a three-tiered system. It begins with these sleeves that you put your cards in, and then the next step, because I think as tarot readers, everything's initiation, and you have to go through your your tiers, your learning experiences. So the first learning experience is a keyword sticker that you would put on the outside so you don't damage your cards. That's why we created these sleeves. Then you put the tarot card in, and now you have time to practice with the keywords. I always look at the tarot as you go to a party, and you're not going to know everybody the first night. You're going to introduce yourself to the people you feel drawn to. And there's some people you're not going to know for many parties down the road until you get to meet them. That's what the keyword stickers are. They're introductions. It's hello, my name is. Then the cheat sheets, which the publishing company hates that I say this. So I say it more because it tickles me. Or these oh, sorry, I keep disappearing like Genie. The you put these cheat sheet cards behind the tarot card itself, and it has more information on the front. It's the actual reversed and upright meanings of the card. Then, and trust me, this getting past the keyword stickers takes a while. Then getting to this part takes a while. Then there's a Zoom keeps making me disappear. There's a QR code in the corner up here that you scan with your smartphone or device that can do so. And it takes you to a beautifully animated video to help explain the card even further. And then underneath that is a treasure trove of astrological, magical, more heavier definitions, history of the card itself. So it just becomes a never ending learning modality to keep the cards in your hands so that you just make that connection with them. And that was the whole
And I
purpose behind it.
enjoy too, yeah, and I enjoy too that you're including technology into it because that is very much the next tool is the technological QR codes and all of that.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
know.
thank you so much for making, just like the book, just like my book, giving us multiple methods and multiple ways to introduce ourselves to tarot. James, thank you so much for coming on and just talking with me a little bit. Where can we find you in the world of cyberness?
In the world of the cyber, you can find me at Auset Gypsy on Instagram and Facebook. If you just type in Auset Gypsy or James Jacob Pierri in your browser, you will find everything because I've been there since the beginning of the internet, and or as we know it in the public at least. And then through my website, ausetgypsy.com, you can browse different appointments that you can make. I offer FaceTime and phone readings still, so you can book appointments with me there. I am now back at Islands of Adventure and Lost Continent, seeing guests from all over the world every day, all day, doing readings. So if you're on vacation and coming through Islands of Adventure, look for me in Lost Continent. You can't miss us. We're across from the Magic Fountain and the Halloween store. And I'll be more than happy to see you in person. I don't have any events booked yet, but that's coming for September and October. So you can always check Instagram or the website when I put that information there as to where you can see me publicly. But Islands of Adventure is the place in public now. And if you go to ausetgypsy.com, you can book a FaceTime or phone reading with me and see me there.
Sounds great. And again, for everybody watching, Read Like a Queen, Real Life Insights to Slay Your Tarot Practice is now available for pre-order wherever books are sold. It will be hitting the shelves September 25th. I wish I could be there for it, but I will be on a boat in the middle of the ocean because that's my honeymoon. So thank you again, Auset Gypsy, for speaking with us. Everybody,
Oh,
have a
thank you.
wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.
Ciao.